Oh, hello, YouTube. Today on the Naughty Librarian, we are continuing our horror book recommendation series, and this time we're going to talk about monsters. Now, monsters is kind of a broad term, and it's covering many different things. So, in this list, I have put my demons, my werewolves, and my cosmic horrors on this list. By cosmic, I mean entities not of this world or dimension. Also, to fit the criteria of horror, I'm not talking about any paranormal romance. There's frankly tons of them with like werewolves and stuff in them. But the main point of those books is the romance or the adventure and not the horror elements. So I have nothing to recommend on that end, but I have a whole lot of scary books, so let's go. Let's go ahead and start this off with my demons section because it's also my largest section. I have a lot of demon-y books and I don't know what this says about me as a human, but here we are. First up, I have Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. This is a standalone, and it features this woman. She's coming back to her childhood home, except the problem is her home has a lot of haunted memories, we'll say, because her dad was a serial killer and he committed his crimes in the basement, which was directly below her bedroom. And I know that sounds like a slasher, but trust me, this is a demon-y book and there's demons in it. I tabbed it a bunch because I loved it. Oh, it's so amazing. And it's so creepy, and like the sense of dread it builds is amazing. And the ending is really open for interpretation. So if you don't like a clear-cut one, you want to kind of interpret the ending as you will, this is the one for you. Next up, I have Thistle Foot by Jenna Rose Nethercott. Now, you could argue this book isn't necessarily horror. However, it has so many horror elements in it that I think it counts. Maybe I'm stretching the term a little bit. But like my last book, I have tabbed the living heck out of this because it's one of my all-time favorite books. It's so good. I will say it's also a little bit of an acquired taste author. Like, you're either really, really gonna love this writing style or you're gonna maybe not get so into it. But Thistle Foot in particular, it's following these two siblings and they inherit a family house, and it is Baba Yaga's house. It's on chicken legs and there's magical things afoot. However, they also have to fight evils. I will put a trigger warning in this, so if you're sensitive to certain topics, please check them, because this book gets very dark at points because it also is historical and it also talks about in great detail the Russian pogroms. So there are demons in this book, but it's also kind of built out of generational trauma. It's also about siblings and like family and coming together and fighting evil, and also demons and magic and Baba Yaga. So all the things I love, all in one book. It's really, really good, and I hope you guys like it too. Next up, I have Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. And oh my gosh, this came out in 2018, and I read it that year, and it was my best book of 2018. It's incredible, frankly. Oh, it's so juicy and dark and eerie, and it's really just like, I don't know, it just creeps into your bones and festers, which sounds terrible, but I mean it in a good way. Basic plot here is that there's this like island, is like Sawkill Rock or something, and there have been like, you know, urban legends that there's a monster there that eats girls. However, the thing is, in this town, girls keep going missing. So, like, maybe it's not an urban legend, okay? And we have three different perspectives in here. Three young women. Technically, this is YA, but honestly, it reads more adult. It's just the characters happen to be teenage girls. But there's a lot going on here with demonry and, like, again, generational trauma plays a part in this, as well as gore. Just so much gore and, like, I would say the dash of body horror. So it's got a lot going on and it's really phenomenal. And again, please read this if you haven't. I think it's great personally. Incidents Around the House by Josh Mallerman is kind of a hard book to describe. I've been saying it's kind of like if Coraline made a baby with Skinamarink. But that being said, this whole book takes place from the perspective of like an 8-year-old girl. So it is like a narrative choice that you're either going to really get into or you're going to be off put by, because he's writing as if is an 8-year-old girl telling the story. So, and kids, their thoughts wander. So sometimes it's very train of consciousness kind of writing. It's up to you. Overall, I think the effect was worth it because this kid obviously sees a lot and understands a lot more than the adults around her believe that she does. And the problem here in this family that's highly dysfunctional. So you also have like family drama going on here. But there's this entity in the house called Other Mommy. And Other Mommy wants to come into the little girl's heart and stay there forever. So demon, possession, all that jazz in here. And the ending is a doozy. So yeah, if Skinamarink is too much for you, do not read this. However, if you're fine with Skinamarink, I think this is like a good book to tide you over. Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky is criminally underrated. I think it's amazing, and it's such a different follow-up because if you didn't know, Stephen Chbosky, he wrote The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This is a very different book from that. But this one is definitely kind of monsters in the woods, demons, like I'm trying to come over into your plane of existence, let me in, little boy. It's all very atmospheric, and you could feel the cold of the forest while you're reading it. But the basic plot here is that there's this mother and this son, and they are fleeing a abusive relationship. So they're kind of hiding in this new town that's kind of a small, close-knit community, and things are going okay. That is until the little boy disappears in the woods for 6 days. And then on day 7, he just walks right on out of the woods, and he's like physically fine, but like mentally not. Something happened in the woods. And considering he's like a kid, he's like a little boy, it's hard for him to explain what's going on. But yes, demonry in the forest basically is what's going on here. And again, criminally underrated. I think this is so good. It is pretty chunky though, so like you're gonna have to invest some amount of time in this one, but I think it's incredible. And like, I don't hear anybody talking about this one. Melissa Albert is another kind of acquired taste author. It's either you're really gonna love her writing style or it might be a little off-putting. For me, it's catnip. I love her writing. And especially this is her latest release, The Bad Ones. I think it just came out this year. Again, this is YA, but I would say it's probably more NA, like new adult. There happen to be teenage girls, but this reads very adult. The best way I could describe this is like, what if a toxic friendship went really bad? So there's these two girls, they've been friends forever in this really kind of almost toxic codependent type relationship. And a lot of their relationship is built on like childhood trauma and grief. And so they would like play make-believe and invent all these like saints and stuff, like the patron saint of revenge and all of these things to like, get their feelings out. But, what happens if those saints you like made up in the forest actually might be real? And then they come a-knocking. So it has a little bit of like a witchy vibe. It definitely has like demonry vibes, and it's just really, really good. And it also talks about, the complexities of female friendship. So it's doing a lot in not a lot of pages, frankly, but it's really, really good. I loved it. And what kind of list of demon books would this be if I didn't put My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix on this? Like, obviously, it has exorcism in the title, first of all. And kind of similar to The Bad Ones, this one is also dealing with, like, the complexities of female friendship. And, I don't know, I guess the moral of the story here is, can friendship beat the devil? ? So there's these two friends, they've been friends for a very long time. They go off to a cabin by, like, a lake in the woods kind of a thing. It's always in the woods. Nothing good happens in the woods ever. It's always something creepy. But the two girls go out there, and one of the girls does not come back the same. So, exorcism, there is a demon possession in this one. It gets pretty gruesome at times. So if you're sensitive to like body horror, maybe check some trigger warnings first. But yeah, it does get pretty gruesome. But overall, I think it's a really fun time. And it's strangely lighthearted for how dark it is, but it's a good book. It's kind of cheeky, I would say, but definitely lots of demonry and lots of body horror going on here. And speaking of possessions, I have to put A Headful of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay on this list, because this is like the Mac Daddy of demon possession books for me, at least, because it is demented. It's the best way to describe the content of this book. Demented. I think it's good for fans of like The Exorcist, for example. It gets like that level of exorcism, demon possession, and whatnot. And perhaps a little bit of ambiguity in the narration as well, because a lot of it is more psychological. Is this like a mental breakdown, or is it really a demon possession? You have to question this throughout the book. It's kind of a family drama. There's this one girl, and she's thinking back in time to her sister who was possessed, and how more of it was fake than she remembers, and she's trying to piece it together, and like what was the actual truth of the situation going on. So it's kind of a little bit of detective work here, but also, you know, deep dark family secrets and also demon possession. So it is demented in the best way, but like it's real scary, so be aware of that, but it's real good. I absolutely loved Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. And I just read it this year. I think it's probably going to be on my best books of the year list, frankly. We're following this young woman and her brother. They've been on their own for quite some time. And she's just trying her best to take care of him. But, you know, their parents have long gone. So it's just her, and she's like, I don't know, in her early 20s trying to take care of a teenager. And, you know, money is a problem. So she takes a job as like a housekeeper at Starling House, which is like, you know, the local haunted house on the hill, essentially. And then she finds out, the house is haunted for realsies. For a while, you're wondering, like, oh, maybe this is coincidences and maybe it's not supernatural. But, like, I don't want to spoil things in the story. But, yeah, shit gets real and people get dead. But, yes, they're fighting demons in here, and there's ghosts and, like, all kinds of things. So it's like a smorgasbord of scary things, but I really liked it. I felt an affinity with the characters. I was really rooting for them, and also the cover just generally kind of like gothic horror themed, so it's a good one. And it's also fairly short. It's not too long, so I think it's worth maybe squeezing in this October. I almost didn't include Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno Garcia on this list, because I will say, like, the first, like, 60% to 70% of the book, it's real slow. It's kind of a slog to get through. But that last 30%, though, is wild. So this takes place, like, I think in the 90s, and they're in Mexico City. And we're following these two best friends. One of them is, like, an editor, and the other one is an actor. And they're trying to make it in the movie business. And, they find this, like, film that was, like, cursed and stuff. Why is it cursed? It takes them down a lot of rabbit holes, and it ends up being demonic cult. So things get real wild in the last third of this book. But the first two, if you make it through that, it pays off. So demons, cult, gore, the works. So I'm putting it on the list, but just be aware, you're gonna have to push through. And my last demon-y book for this list is Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. This is arguably not a horror book, but it's my list, and this is one of my favorite books, so I'm putting it on. It's like kind of a queer noir type of story, and also there's demons in the world and magic is real, so it's kind of like alternate history. So, you know, it's like the 40s, you have the gumshoe who's trying to like save the dame kind of a situation, very noir, but also demons, and like they're doing demon stuff, and it's bad, and there's gore, and this is technically a novella, so you could definitely squeeze it in. I want more books in this series so desperately, but like I haven't heard any news of this author writing anything right now, but please, like, I love this this book so intensely, and it's so short, and I want more. So I'm just putting it in there to put that out in the universe, basically, but it's amazing. Okay, so we're out of demons finally. Now I have a few more books, and this is more like werewolves and cosmic terror kind of a section. I actually really enjoyed The Wolf Gift by Anne Rice, and there will be a full recap coming out on the channel likely next month. I haven't got to film it yet, but I read it, and I actually really liked it. I was surprised at how easy of a read it was, considering it's Anne Rice and she likes to wax poetic about the scenery a lot. And she does it in this book as well, but it has so much action and the characters are so lovable. Like, and it's rare for Anne Rice. She writes some pretty despicable characters in her books. And this one, it's like the softest werewolf boy you'll ever meet in your life. And you root for him so hard, even though he's eviscerating people. Because it wouldn't be Anne Rice if there wasn't like extreme gore. And like gore you wouldn't even think of in a million years. She found a way to use it. So incredibly gory. Lots of like action and werewolf stuff going on here, but it's also really adorable characters, which sounds odd to say, but you just have to read it and take my word for it. But yes, I actually really like this one. I got one more Jenna Rose Nethercott book on this list, and that is 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart. And this is a collection of short stories. Some of these are bone-chilling stories, and it's just so atmospheric and creepy, and you don't know what's happening, and like you feel like you're in the story because the characters don't know what's happening either, and it messes with your head. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. And some of the stories in this are demented, and I wish were like whole books. But yeah, it's a lot of short stories in here. Some are better than others. They're not all gonna be bangers, but the ones that are bangers in this one, chef's kiss. They're so good. Jenna Rose Nethercott's auto buy for me. And this one will give you all of the monsters and like psychological terror you could ever want. One more return author on this list. I have Bird Box by Josh Malerman. This was one of those rare books I read. I literally read it all in one day, all in one sitting. It's fairly short, but I could not put it down. And the second like I closed the back cover when I finished, the only thing I could say was fuck. Like it just, it's brilliant, frankly. It's real good. Basic idea here is that there's these creatures, monsters, beings, whatever you want to call them, that have come to Earth, and if you see them, the human mind cannot comprehend their existence and you go insane, and then you go around unaliving yourself and others. It's a problem. So in this whole world, you cannot use your eyes anymore because if you see a creature, it's over for you. So it takes away one of your big senses that you would need, especially if you're the prey in this situation. And what is the real monster in this world? Is it the creatures? Is it what humanity has devolved into? It's up for interpretation. The sense of dread he writes into this story is palpable. This one, chef's kiss, incredible. I'm gonna throw a graphic novel series on this list as well. So this is Fatale, and this is by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. They're OGs in the comic book world. And Fatale is cosmic terrors, I would say, a la H.P. Lovecraftian type of things. So it has great art in it. So like I was saying, cosmic terrors. There you go, everybody. But it's also kind of a noir detective story, and I'm not going to tell you anything about the plot. Frankly, it's a graphic novel. You need the images to really go along with it. But, there's a dame in trouble, and he has to save her, and also cosmic terrors happening at the same time. It's a lot, but it's really good. I think there's 5 volumes. They're all out. You can just binge them. And last up on the list, probably the book that can best be described as a clusterfuck, is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. It is a lot, okay? Let's just start there. Even the pages are written uniquely. Here's 2 pages that have 3 words on them. So the whole book is very visual. It's told through cutouts from magazines and run-on insanity of a journal and emails and all kinds of stuff. And it's all kind of about this house that shouldn't exist because there's spaces that don't make sense and perhaps sentience is involved here and demonry, and it's a lot. It's like a descent into madness on page. That's the best way to describe this book. It will mess with your head because you're reading it and you're like, what is even happening? Why are the words on all the different parts of the page? Like, nothing makes sense, and that's the point. I guess, you know, go into it if you're willing to make the commitment here. But yeah, this is a descent into madness put on page. It's a lot. Okay, so that was a whole lot of demons and werewolves and monsters. Oh my, lots and lots of books to recommend. Again, this is just my personal list of things I have read personally and want to recommend. So maybe your favorite book wasn't on this list. So hey, you know what? If there's a book that should definitely be on the list that I didn't mention, go ahead and drop it in the comments down below. And I'll be back next week to continue this series. I'm going to have even more horror books for you. I'm going all out this Halloween. It's coming. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. If you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And if you want cool exclusive content, including early access to videos and a book club, you can consider becoming a channel member or a patron. Links for that are in the description down below. And on that note, I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.